Hello everybody, welcome to this Altergeist video where today I'm doing something very special. I've been recording my last 50 ladder matches and I'm going to present them to you to show you how the deck fares against the current environment in Duel Links. All these games are played at King of Games rank, so there are quite a few rogue decks in there because they say when you get to King of Games you unlock the casual ladder, but the players themselves have a good skill level. I guess unless they got there through Burn FTK. um, also, because of the chance to fight against rogue decks being so high, I do split my data and I can just look at just against the tiered decks as well, so we can look at something a bit more useful to properly analyze the strength of an Altergeist deck. So just for reference, this deck here is the one which I used for my 50 games. I actually did 51 games because when I finished I stuck an extra one in there. Thought, let's just record that as well. It was against a matchup I didn't have very many data points against. And so yeah, this is the deck list that I used and it's the same as from my last video. So let me just switch the screens, let's have a look. This is the data in all of its glory. So it's here, this is 51 games, and let's have a look over here for a quick summary. So I won 35 games, and I lost 16, which gives us a nice 69% win rate out of my 51 games. And then over here, so I took some notes of some specific things. So whether I won or lost, whether I went first or second, whether I had access to the engine or not. And this one you can just ignore, it's something which... So what I want to do with had specific out is if I'm in a game where I don't have engine access but then I still win, I want to know, well, was it because I had a specific out in the matchup, or am I against a matchup where even if I have engine I have to draw a specific out to win? But I found that a lot of my specific outs double as engine. So for example, 1-for-1 and Magical Dimension, they are outs in a lot of matchups, but they are also engine access sometimes. So that means I barely ever used had specific out. So because I wasn't recording consistently, it's not something for us to pay attention to. And then I've got the tiers, so I could break down the rogue decks and whatnot later. So by engine, what do I mean? I interpreted this very loosely. All I meant was having access to a multi-faker special summon effect. And this isn't actually the full proper engine, because the full engine gets you searches with the metal you seek, it gets Conquery into rotation, maybe even Hexty if you're lucky. But just multi-faker means you could open out with a hand of, for example, a bunch of limit 3 back row which don't advance your engine, multi-faker, and I don't like Silkwiddises or something in your hand. So then, actually no, Silkwiddises would still help. But if you just go like multi-faker compulse, for example, you compulse them in their turn, you get your multi-faker access, you summon it, you get a Silkwiddice if you need to survive, you bounce the multi-faker and bounce one of their things, but you've got no engine now because if you just open really poorly, say you've had to burn through all your traps already, you got no follow through. So I took this loose definition of engine. So yeah, there's our overall win rates, and you can see here the decks that I played against. And now let's go into some proper analysis. Oh, and I guess here's the tier list at the time of the video. So this will date the video. Tier 1 Blue Eyes Phantom Knights, Tier 2 Performance Shaddoll, and Tier 3 Shiranui Sky Striker, Tech Genus, and Zombies, according to DuelLinksMeta.com. So let's look at the analysis against the tiered deck specifically. So overall, I played 35 games against tiered decks and I won 21, so our win rate drops from 69 to 60%, which is to be expected. You know, rogue decks you will have a higher win rate against than tier decks. There's a reason they're not tiered. So let's just go left to right and share my thoughts and opinions about Altergeists versus these specific matchups. So Blue Eyes, I only got a 50% win rate, but I only played 2 games. So it's a very tiny sample size. I won one of the 2. I actually believe Blue Eyes is one of our best matchups. We're very favored against it. It's like Eternal Bond. It's not as free as Eternal Bond was for us, but it's still very good. I just happened to lose one of the games against Blue Eyes because they can draw actually pretty good hands against us. And I mean, that happened to me when I was recording. So I would expect to have maybe a 70 or even 80% win rate against Blue Eyes, if I'm honest. Unfortunately, a small sample size there. Phantom Knights, we had 6 games, which for the total games I played is a high proportion. And I won 4 of them, which was actually a little bit surprising. The matchup does feel a little harder than that. Maybe not as hard as only winning half the matches. So if I played more and more, I'd expect this win rate to drop from 67% to maybe more like 60% or something like that. If we have a look down here, what might have contributed to my wins and losses? Well, I went first half the games, so going first and second, I won 2 games going first, 2 games going second. I actually won a game here. So how to interpret this, by the way, is this part of the table here is percentages that I won according to this condition. So when I went first, I won 67% of the time. And if we look down here, this is the absolute numbers. I went first in 3 games. I won 66% of the time, so I won 2 out of the 3 games going first. If we look at having engine access, I lost 1 game where I had engine access, but 2 of my 6 games against Phantom Knights, I didn't have engine access, and I actually still won 1 of them. Which is pretty good, because not having an engine is actually pretty rare. And we'll talk about that more once I get to Shiranui. So overall, I'd say a good showing against the tier 1 decks. It's a shame I didn't get to play more games against Blue Eyes. who I don't know who normally says that, but yeah, it's a shame I didn't get to play more games against Blue Eyes. Because I think that would have showed a much better win rate than almost anything else here. Performance at tier 2 looks exactly the same as Phantom Knights. We played 6 games, we won 4 of them. But in this one, we went first 4 out of the 6 games rather than a perfect split. And we had engine in every game as well. And as you'd expect, we won more games when we went first. And of the 2 games going second, we lost 1 of them. Yeah, I think that kind of just speaks for itself. We've got a decent matchup against Performage, like most things. They can do some really annoying things. But yeah, we can beat them. We can beat them. Shadol, this one was another victim of small sample size. So I got a 100% win rate, but I only played against them 3 times. And all 3 times, I went first and I had engine access. So it's kind of perfect for me every game I played against them. But even though it doesn't give us an overall idea of the matchup against Shadol, it at least tells us what our matchup is like if we go first and have engine access. Which means we don't need a specific combination of cards to win. We just favored with regular engine access. And Shadol's, it's just awkward for them, because if we make Hextia turn 1, if that's our extra deck monster, their Shadol Fusion is in a funny space, right? Because now it's turned on, but we can negate it with Hextia. And if they want to get rid of the Hextia, then their Shadol Fusion no longer fuses from the deck. And so what they want to do is get rid of the thing that Hextia is pointing to. And that's what a lot of the match is about, if you've managed to get a turn 1 Hextia up. Otherwise, you don't have to go into... you don't always have to go into an extra deck monster to turn on their Shadol Fusion. If they go first, though, and they get Winder out, like, not even if they get out in their first turn, if they go... they said normally they just use Schism, the trap card, to fusion as soon as possible in our main phase and make Winder. So they don't try and get greedy, they don't have to send any red monsters to the graveyard with Schism, they just make Winder immediately. We're in a lot of trouble. We just have to draw a specific out to Winder, and I'm not running a lot of outs to Winder, actually. My outs are in the form of traps, and that can be a bit slow. So if I kind of wish I did get to play more games against Shadol, go second some more, record the matches there, as that might inform some good deck building decisions in the future. Winder is a reason to go Kaijus rather than my specific outs, for example, because my specific outs rely on special summoning more, which Winder obviously stops, or by destroying, and Winder's immune to destruction. So I guess Meluseek answers Winder if Meluseek goes unmolested and gets through for battle damage, but it doesn't really answer Winder because they get to, you trigger Winder's effect to get a Shadol spell trap back. and it's a bit slow. If you don't have multi-faker access already, you have to give it up to attack with Meluseek, etc. Let's move on to Shiranui. So I got 8 games against Shiranui, so it should be fairly representative compared to everything else, but I only won 2 games, so 25% win rate. This is lower than I expected, but also compared to my other results, it is in line with my experience against Shiranui, even outside of these 51 games. But I'd like to make a special note down here. So we went first and second, a completely even split, 4-4. But I only had the engine 5 out of the 8 games. 3 of them I didn't have engine access. And if we have a look over here, and I sort by if I had the engine or not, let's have a look here. So out of 51 games, I didn't have the engine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Only 8 games, and 3 of them were all against Shiranui. And as I talked about Phantom Knights, 2 of them were against Phantom Knights. So Shiranui and Phantom Knights, I think, have a higher representation of a loss than I would otherwise expect. And I believe that's contributing to why Shiranui is at only a 25% win rate. Funny enough, of the 3 games I didn't have engine, I did win one of them, which surprises me, to be honest, because Shiranui feels like a matchup where we need quite a specific combination of cards to win, or like specific outs. But they don't need such a specific combination to win against us. They I think that's all I need to say for that, really. Anyone who's played against Shiranui with Altergeists, you know what I'm talking about. It can be tricky. They can force out a back row with non-targeting removal, and then after we get out, because normally we respond to non-targeting removal by just activating any randomized trap to summon Multifaker after the removal, but it doesn't cost them very many resources to have got to that point yet, which means having Multifaker Silkwoodus isn't always enough to even let us survive the turn, let alone getting to a position to get our engine going. Yeah, so that's the experience for Shiranui. Pretty hard. And we had a rough time when Shiranui were tier 0 with Tachyon, but then who didn't? Sky Striker is also lower than I expected. But different to Shiranui. Shiranui is lower than I expected, but I still expected it to be low. Sky Striker, I expected to actually have at least an even matchup against them. But of my 3 games, I only won 1 of them. So I didn't have engine in one of them, and I only went first in one of them as well. So going second, not having access to engine, these kind of skew the results and explain why I only won 1 of the 3 games. How it personally feels playing against Sky Striker, it feels about like an even matchup, because we really want to go first and they really want to go second, and so it feels even when you do it. If we have a look here, the game that I went second. I mean, we went second twice against them. So yeah, shame I can't explain more about Sky Striker. It's a bit awkward against Sky Striker. You don't really want to bounce their Link monsters with Silkwoodus, because you just let them reuse them for free, basically. But Hexteo, of course, can be really good against Sky Striker, getting to negate their key spells. And once you've started to burn through their... Like, Hexteo can negate multi-roll in the end phase, when multi-roll is trying to set spells from the graveyard. So, like, that's really good. Yeah, so Sky Striker, if you asked me about my subjective experience, I'd say probably about 50% of the time we win against them. Tech Genus here. So I played 5 games against Tech Genus and won 4, which gives an 80% win rate. And if we have a look down here, there's 1 game where I didn't have engine access. If we go to the record and we just find Tech Genus. So the game that I lost is the game that I didn't have engine access here. So it seems if we have engine access going first or second, we have a pretty good matchup against Tech Genus, and yes, that's how it subjectively feels as well. If we played 1 more game against Tech Genus, bringing us to 6, like against Phantom Knights and Perform Edge, I would actually expect to win that game, making the win rate even better. Yeah, because that'd be 5 out of 6. But you know, there was a chance I would have lost it, small sample size and everything. So against Take Genus, if you're going first, then you get your setup. You can even use Hextia to negate their spell, which is amazing. Usually they want to go into Black Rose Dragon and then start comboing, but we've got quite good resilience against a game plan like that, because we can activate any old trap in response to Black Rose Dragon. Black Rose wipes the board, and then we get Multi-Faker Silkwood, and we can still interrupt them. This is different to Shiranui, where when they use Sun Saga to non-target and destroy our traps, they still have a lot of resources after that to keep going, and Silkwood's bounce isn't enough to survive always. If they go first and they make their ace monster, which can negate summons, we have a lot of combinations of hands which don't mind so much about that. If we have, if our hand relies on normal summon Meluseek and link it away to find Multi-Faker, then yeah, we can have a hard time because they just negate the summon of Meluseek. But a lot of our hands don't need that. Like if we have 1-for-1, for example, if we have personal spoofing, if we just have the Multi-Faker, then yeah, we're fine. They have a link monster which protects their synchros from being targeted, but we have enough to get through it. We can just bounce the link monster and then deal with their synchros. Like their synchros aren't threatening enough to us because they still have to get through the battle phase ultimately. So even though it's got like 4,000 attack, we've still got Conqueror access and everything like that. So yeah, the main thing you have to watch out for in a matchup, I'd say, is if they make Herald of the Arclight. So watch out if they have access to make a level 4 Synchro monster. You might need to do something that you wouldn't be able to do once Herald of the Arclight is on the field. And that's an avenue for them to win against us. I don't think Tech Genius is as easy as against Blue Eyes. But it is favored for us, I'd say, for sure. Against zombies, this was another very low win rate. This really should say Red Eyes, like Red Eye zombies. So I only played 2 games and I happened to win both of them. We obviously don't actually have a 100% win rate against Red Eyes zombies. I did go first and second in each of them, and I had engine in both. They just don't have enough stuff compared to Shiranui to hurt us. They have Felgrand, which is really annoying, because when Felgrand gets summoned from the graveyard, it banishes one of our monsters either in play or the field, and banishing a Meluseek, I mean, that can be disastrous depending on the quality of our hand. But a lot of the time, it's easy to play around. It's like playing around IDP. If you know your opponent can banish something in your graveyard, and that's important to you, you just wait until they try to banish it before you revive it with manifestation. Or you just have 2 manifestations. It's that easy. You know, like my point is we have ways to play around banishing stuff from my graveyard. Also, Hextia can negate the spell that they get from the skill. The what's it called, like Zombie Reborn or something. And our bounce-based removal is actually really annoying for them because they want to set up their graveyard and then revive their synchro monsters. And if we put like the Red Eyes Zombie Dragon into their graveyard, for example, into their extra deck, that's really annoying for them to try and get out. Their skill puts a lot more restrictions on them than the Shiranui one does. So yeah, that's just an analysis of my 51 ladder games. I hope it was helpful to people, give you an idea of what the ladder is like with Altergeists, at least my build of Altergeists. And something I've been thinking about doing is matchup specific guides, like for example how to play against Blue Eyes with Altergeists, how to play against Phantom Knights with Altergeists, and the key cards you're watching out for, the plays you have to preempt, the plays where you can just sit back and wait to see what your opponent does. I'm not sure if that's something people would be interested in. If you would be, please leave a comment, let me know, and we'll see. It might be something I get around to doing in the future. By the time I do it, the meta itself might be different, but if there are matchups you guys want to know about, just ask me. And just for completeness, here's the record, so I'll scroll down so that you can pause the video and have a look if you're interested in my specific matchup history. Alright, thanks for watching everybody, and I hope you have a nice day.